the tough budget looms, who's borne the brunt so far?
I'm actively working to pay my mortgage, to pay the taxes, but there has to be a level at which enough is enough.
Also, as Greece gets a new deal on its debt, what might that mean for us? And the expert group report on abortion is published. We look at the political difficulties that may lie ahead. That's prime time after the news.
Radio Telefi Sharon, you're watching RTE1, where we now join Eileen Dunn for the main evening news.
Good evening and welcome. The headlines tonight. Report of expert group on abortion published. It offers 4 options for dealing with the European Court judgment.
We will make a decision before the end of next month on which option to implement.
Businessman loses challenge to revenue decision that could yield €100 million for taxman. A new survey shows primary schools struggling to make ends meet.
We discovered 46% of primary schools in the country were in a deficit in their last financial year.
Was Yasser Arafat poisoned? Forensic samples are removed from his remains. The government has promised a decision next month on how to proceed on the abortion issue following the publication of an expert group report which identified a series of options. While the report doesn't come down in favour of any one of the 4 options it outlines, the only one it describes as constitutionally, legally and procedurally sound is the provision of legislation underpinned by medical regulation.
A writing to the Cabinet that would approve this report on an issue that's proved politically and socially divisive in the past, Enda Kenny called for a calm debate. The report itself clearly sets out the legal options open to the government, outlining the advantages and disadvantages of each. Mere guidelines on when abortions were permitted would not have the force of law. Regulations issued by the Minister for Health would still require legislation. Legislation alone would be time-consuming and might be too rigid an approach, whereas regulations underpinned by legislation would be constitutionally, legally and procedurally sound, as well as allowing flexibility in the event of medical advances. And the expert group clearly favours replacing an 1861 Act with new law to provide clarity and certainty.
The government needs to swiftly introduce legislation and make sure that women's lives are no longer at risk.
Legislation, unfortunately, I don't think is the way to go, because the legislation would have to give effect to the ex-case decision. And in that case, there was no duty of care to the baby.
The focus now shifts to which option the government will choose. James Riley promising swift action and a decision within weeks.
We want to have the baby.